I'm Debra Lew Harder, the new radio host of the Metropolitan Opera, and I am so thrilled to be here with an illustrious group of musicians. We have our music director, Yannick Nézet-Séguin, composer Matthew Aucoin. We have principal clarinet Anton Rist, our new principal second violin, Jeremias Sergiano Velasquez, and our associate principal double bass, Lee Mesh. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are very thrilled about the upcoming series of chamber music concerts that Met Orchestra musicians are doing at Wild Recital Hall at Carnegie Hall. I know you opened in October with a fantastic program featuring Angel Blue and also music of Wagner mixed with Terence Blanchard and Louise Farrenc. Now coming up in November, you have an equally intriguing program. So Yannick, tell me, why is it important for the Met Orchestra musicians to play together in a very intimate setting, such varied repertoire?
So I believe it's first very important, I think, for New Yorkers and everyone coming to the Met who is experiencing such beauty from the pit, night after night, in a varied repertoire, to also get to see on stage and meet the individuals behind that sound. You know, and an orchestra is a collective, but it's not one personality. It's a collection of incredible musicians. And, you know, we say it over and over again, and I say it, that the Met Orchestra is one of the greatest orchestras in the world. So it is composed by these fabulous musicians. And it is good in return also for musicians to be able to meet differently. You know, it's so difficult to be in the pit and have to listen all the time to the singers, and it takes a lot of skills, and you're never quite in an ideal setting. And as chamber musician, you can actually stop and talk to your colleague, not being from one end to the pit of the pit to the other. And I get to also experience myself being there and sitting, you know, with them, which is a very different experience, and which I love to think that opera is a chamber music at large, but we know that in reality, it's sometimes it's more traffic than than anything else. So that's why I think it's very important to have that circulation of energy and of a different focus and spotlight on our wonderful musicians.
And we'll get to hear your individual voices, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
You're also going to be playing the piano, which I know you love to do, in a couple of pieces, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. I wanted to start out with Lee Mesh because you're going to be in the opening piece, which is written by a very intriguing composer, Erwin Schulhoff, who sadly his life was cut short by the Nazis, but he wrote in a very unique style. Could you just tell us a little bit about what captures you about his piece, the Concertino? Whom you're going to be playing it with, and
well, I've known about this piece and forever, my whole life, my whole career, and this is the first time I'm playing it. So that's special to me because for the few bass pieces we have that I've played many times over and over again, to have something new is really exciting. He was Czech, and there are a lot of folk melodies, and it's romantic, kind of atonal and very rhythmic. So.
And you're playing with Chelsea Knox, principal flute.
Chelsea
and
Milan.
Milan,
Yes.
principal viola.
Yeah.
That'll be a great sound. Then next on the program, we have something brand new by Matthew Aucoin. Matt, do you want to describe your piece and why you chose those particular parts of Eurydice to arrange for a smaller group?
Sure, of course, we've got the Met premiere of Eurydice coming up in under 2 weeks. And, you know, as Yannick said, this is an orchestra of superstars. You know, they're people that you want to hear as individuals, as well as in the fabric of the orchestral sound. So it was thrilling for me to kind of imagine the most vivid parts of the opera. One of the arias begins with a very prominent percussion introduction, and I think that'll really crackle in Weill Hall. Also, there are two of the big soprano arias. We have our soprano soloist. In the case of the concert, it's Leave Redpath. So it sort of is like it's an hors d'oeuvre. It's a preview of the opera. with a couple of its highlights. Yeah.
So whetting the audience's appetite for the premiere of the actual opera at the Met.
Exactly.
2 days later. Anton, I know that you're going to be performing in that particular arrangement. What can you say about Matt's writing for winds and your part in
I won't listen.
You won't listen. You'll leave the room. So playing Matt's music, it's so much fun and it's so engaging. And so often when we're presented with a new score that is unfamiliar to all of us, it's easy to sort of go into like a math solving mode and sort of work it all out mathematically so it's as accurate as possible, and never really be able to let go and actually enjoy the music and enjoy playing it and sort of seeing where it takes you. And with Matt's music, even just the first time reading through it, it's so clear that the characters, the engagement, the textures, the colors, it's all so accessible. Once you work out the technical problems, which there are a lot, everything falls into a groove and it becomes really fun and engaging to play. And it sort of draws the performer in to see what they can do, how can they make the most of each little phrase. And I'm positive it'll do the same for the audience as well. So it's been really fun digging into it. And we had a few weeks off from playing it, and coming back to it, it still sort of resides in your bones and it's still there. So it's been really, really wonderful getting to know it.
I mean, this guy's a true genius. Just saying.
Yannick, for you conducting the chamber version, does that reveal anything to you new in his score?
So, Matt, I think you're a fantastic orchestrator, right? So, I mean, a lot of what Anton just said, you know, I agree so much with it. It has to do with knowing how to write for the instruments. And I believe that people who are going to come at the Opera House and hear the full score will hear something where the colors will emerge from the orchestra and never quite in conflict with this, with the vocal lines, which is often our problem here. You know, it's like talk about problem solving. I think in the pit, conductor and musicians, we have to always imagine the ways of the right color to support the line, not to over. And it's much more complicated than too loud, too soft. You know, it's more detailed than this. And I believe that, Matt, you're setting setting us on the right direction with this. So back to exactly your question, I believe that because you're such in good control of your of the orchestration, the chamber music aspect will still reveal that color, that sense of color, but probably, I guess, draw more attention to the exact purely musical content, and not so much about the actual color. And one of the pieces, you know, that we're going to play is the heart of the opera, is the centerpiece, the most beautiful aria. I mean, there's so many beautiful parts, but the most beautiful aria of it. And to hear it, only the first time I heard your music was working on it with you at the piano and Erin singing it, Erin Morley, who's singing it at the Met. And, you know, just with piano, it already was beautiful. So if you expanded chamber, you were able to zoom in to the real music making, and then you come to the Opera House and you have the full picture with the orchestration and the. It's a bit like having the sets there. You know,
Are you talking about this is what it's like to love an artist?
Absolutely.
Which is so poignant.
It is poignant.
And it's such a great opera about loss of life, of love, identity, and language, and almost devastating when experienced through the music. So I'm sure the more the audience hears it, the more it's going to touch them, and especially to have this version for chamber ensemble and soprano. I'd like to talk just a little bit about the piece, Yannick, that you're going to be playing with Jeremias, about written by one of the great American composers who's finally getting her due. I want to extol you, Yannick, for bringing the music of Florence Price to a much wider audience. Could you just describe Florence Price for us and the piece that you're going to play?
So I discovered for myself Florence Price through her symphonies. And when I first played an excerpt from her first symphony, I was blown away. And then I started researching about how she wrote 4 symphonies, 3 of which we can play now. The second, we know she composed it, but it's somewhere in an attic, or it's still somewhere, but we're convinced we can find it at some point. She was from the early 20th century, and she knew how to really take with her the baggage of the language of the European Romantic composers, and yet she was able to blend this with such a sense, a melodic sense and a harmonic sense, truly rooted in American history. And her African-American heritage is obvious from her choice of instruments, for the fact that, you know, she, instead of a scherzo, for example, she always does a juba dance, which is really quintessential American and from her culture. And she unapologetically, through her life, brought this to the forefront. And sadly, two things were against her: her race and her gender. And this is the truth, and this is why it's so important for all of us to now make up for the time that, you know, collectively our music world has lost. And I'm so glad to see her music played more and more, the concertos and the symphonies, and I've just recorded the symphonies with Philly, but also the Met Chamber musicians. Also, that was obvious from the first concert, you know, their commitment, your commitment to having not only the music that everybody knows, but also what's off the beaten path, you know, what's Louise Farinck last time and now Florence Price. So that really warms my heart to see that everyone is embracing this responsibility.
And Jeremias, you're going to be playing the solo part with Yannick at the piano of Adoration.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about first coming to the Met? I think it's your first season here.
Yes.
And that experience, and then also playing Florence Price.
So yeah, as you said, it's my first season. This is like my second or third month here.
Just like me.
So it's been nothing but amazing, really. I absolutely love the repertoire and absolutely everything we've done. I really like it. I really love it. And something that I really like here, how well everybody needs to listen at all times. And I guess because it's an opera, you know, and people need to be aware of so many things, the singers, and also every performance might be just quite a bit different.
Yes.
And there's a lot of kind of sensing each other, and I really love that about the Met. And I think it's a very chamber-like experience in a big way. So I'm really excited to be playing chamber music with Met musicians. I think people here just have listening in their DNA, and it's a really fulfilling experience to me. It's a lot of music, a lot of new music for me, because
A lot of long nights, too.
exactly, yeah. Unless you've been in an opera orchestra before, it's all new. I mean, I've listened to a lot of the music before, but a lot of new music, but I'm having a blast.
Oh. What do you find special about Florence Price's Adoration? Is it adoring something?
Well, it has such a natural singing quality, I think, and in Adoration as well as in Deserted Island, she really, like Maestro said, she mixes some of like the Western traditions that we're used to, but also she adds a little bit of elements of perhaps jazz and blues and some modal language harmonies. So it's really, it's very touching music in my opinion, and I'm very much looking forward to playing it with Yannick. It's going to be an honor, really. So really excited for it.
It's wonderful. I sense a lot of joy amongst all of you for this upcoming concert and just playing together. And no musician and composer is more joyful than Mozart. So we know that, Yannick, you're going to be playing the Mozart G minor piano quartet, one of the greatest pieces of chamber music for piano and strings. But it's quite a tour de force for the piano, almost like a piano concerto.
Oh. Please don't say that.
Not to put any pressure on you, but what are you looking forward to most in playing that Mozart?
So it truly is an honor for me to play with these musicians. Of course, it's an honor to conduct them, but it's an honor, especially an honor to play, because piano playing for me has always been my most secret, not secret, people knew about it, but it's something I would not reveal and very rarely would do in public. And then thanks, or I don't know if I should thank her, but Joyce Di Donato, just before the pandemic, we did this project of Winterreise together. And then she, of course, she's such a star, she said, we need to play this at Carnegie Hall. The day I had to play Winterreise, play piano at Carnegie Hall, I remember being there and looking at the columns of the stage. I said, if someone would have said, you know, for me to conduct at Carnegie, great honor. But in a way, with the career I have, I was kind of, you know, I'm not wanting to say it's normal. I'm grateful for it, but, you know, it's more expected. But playing piano? Am I worthy of this? So I did it, and then the pandemic gave me more time with the piano, reconnecting with it. And I did a recording with Renee Fleming, and this led to another thing.
And
so,
your solo,
and my solo album too.
Not to mention.
But I mean, it's still a part that I think is the most vulnerable, Yannick. And for me, I do it with all my heart with my colleagues, musicians here, because they invited me, and because you're right, I want to share the joy of really producing the sound. Us conductors, it's so much fun to conduct, as you know, but it's also, at some point, it's good to be reminded what it takes to produce the sound itself and not being always in the position just to expect something to happen. And it's, so I find this very humbling, and I hope that the audience coming to it will, of course, hear our fantastic. It's going to be Ben Bauman, Milan Milasevic at the viola, and Jerry Grossman at the cello. Hear them, these fantastic players, but yes, to hear the joy of Mozart and the vulnerable Yannick, just, you know, happy to be getting back to his roots with this.
Oh, we can't wait. It's going to be a wonderful concert, a wonderful opening of your opera coming up in just 2 weeks, and I want to thank all of you for spending the time to letting us know about what's coming up. That's November 21st,
Yes.
a Sunday night at 7:30, and that series goes all the way into June. So lots to look forward to.
I hope everyone joins in that time and for the rest of the year to hear the fantastic Met musicians.
Oh, thank you so much, everybody.